Ramblings! Last week on Ramblings with Rebecca, we explored questions of postmodernism and epistemologies and constructivist versus empirical debates. It was all very meta and theoretical, and some would say probably not of much concrete use in the world. But my reply to that would be that all of these theories and debates within academia and between individuals about, the scientific method versus we all have our own truths versus we've gone from modern to postmodern and what is postmodern, and all of these questions. They're really, I think, ultimately about some of the very fundamental questions that humans have about, who am I and what is my place in the world and what does it all mean? So good things to wrestle with, and things that my personal view is that we're not ever as an individual going to find the absolute answer to, unless it's 42. And that's okay for me. I know some people get really freaked out about the fact that they can't know and they need to know. I'm really quite thrilled with not knowing. I think it's fun, and that wrestling with it can give a lot of illumination to issues and to the way we want to interact with each other and that kind of thing. I've been asked to ramble a little bit about hyperreality, so I'm going to do that today. And then we're going to have a little bit of a hiatus because I'm traveling down to London, and I'll come back next week with heaven knows what. Probably some law again, but one never really knows with me. So hyperreality, oh, there are puppies outside. Pardon the barking. Hyperreality has some things to do with what I was rambling about last week. I delved back into sociological theory for a reason. Used in postmodern philosophy to describe the mind's inability to distinguish reality from a simulation of reality, particularly around technology. So it's thrown around a lot in virtual reality, human intelligence, and artificial intelligence debates. Game simulations, there's a lot of discussion about hyperreality in video games. Examples given of individuals, acting in the real world like they would in the game world. And some of these are just habits and they're not full hyperreality, right? So when you drive, in a video game with your, thumbs, you're used to pressing one button to speed up. And when you're driving in your real car, you try to press that one button instead of actually, putting your foot on the accelerator, that kind of thing. Those refer to kind of like the habits and just, muscle memory. But there are theories of this thing that goes deeper. So that our mind actually, the barrier between the imagined and the real, between the actual concrete world, and, the fake places or symbols and images start to become completely blurred, and we can't distinguish between the two. So people going completely insane, we would label it as, and acting in the real world like they are in a video game and like doing all of the rules, which could include killing people or, hoarding weird kinds of items and that kind of thing. Some other theorists of hyperreality also look at things like Disneyland, or like just super consumerist. This is not the real world, but we've created an entire world, right? And people are allowed to exist in it. Right, and that becomes a hyperreality, such that the symbol or the fake becomes perhaps preferred to reality, right? So here it's not just that the mind can't distinguish between the two, it's that the mind or, the society really wants this fake version instead of the real version, and that's getting that hyperreality. So part of questions around it may simply be because it's used to refer to a lot of different things, and there are several theorists of hyperreality. I'll throw some of the names down in the text below the YouTube clip, defining it differently, using it, saying, no, this isn't hyperreality, this is, and that kind of thing. But the basic bit of it is focused around whether or not we can distinguish reality from simulation, the real from the fake, that kind of thing. For me, I think there's fun questions of who's to say this is real? Now we're getting really creepy. Think Matrix style. And or why necessarily is the fake any less real, right? Like, why are our symbols less important or less relevant to life and to interactions? So fun questions there. Hyperreality is generally seen as a negative, a negative thing if an individual is stuck in it. But I think it's also greater questions for society to reflect on what all of this new technology really means and how we want to interact with it.